Discounting the positive is one of the sneakiest reasons so many Filipinos can't feel joy, even when good things happen. You get praised at work instead of feeling proud, you brush it off, or you give your family everything you can, but they thank you and you say, that's nothing, that's just a small thing, or wala lang yun, maliit na bagay. And over time, it starts to feel that no matter what we do, nothing is ever enough. Does that sound familiar? If so, don't worry because you're definitely not alone. In fact, this is one of the most common struggles I see among us Filipinos here in the States, in the diaspora, and even back home. And today I'll show you why this happens and how it connects to our inner child wounds, and most importantly, how you can finally let yourself feel joy again. Magandang umaga, hapon, or gabi po sa inyong lahat. I'm Dr. Nette. I'm a Filipino-American clinical psychologist, and I have dedicated my career helping Filipinos worldwide heal generational trauma through inner child healing, ancestral wisdom, and kapwa psychology. I was born and raised in the Philippines, and I immigrated here to the US as a young adult and later pursued graduate studies in San Francisco. And as a first gen immigrant, I bring both personal and professional insight into the healing journey. Also, having grown with anxiety and trauma, I deeply understand what it means to face mental health challenges without support and without resources. I was also later diagnosed with ADHD, and so that kind of further complicated things when I was in grad school. But, because I didn't really want to really acknowledge that I've been struggling all along. And even though I intuitively have or like have known it, that there was something different about how my brain is wired. But anyway, that's for another time. So the point in saying that is like all of this lived experience, inspired me to create this channel. Now we will also have like a podcast, and we also have, at least from the current recording, September 2025, we have 102,000 following in Instagram. These are really spaces that makes healing accessible while honoring our culture, our heritage, and our community. So, what is discounting the positive? Because if you've ever heard someone compliment you instead of saying thank you brush it off. Or maybe you say, uy, wala lang yon, that's nothing. Or hindi naman ako magaling, swerte lang, which means I'm not that good, I'm just like really lucky. And this is what a psychologist call discounting the positive. This is a type of cognitive distortion. Basically, what that means is like it's a trick our brain or anxiety plays on us when, where you explain away your accomplishments or joy. And so instead of us letting the good in, we push it away. And so in Filipino families, this often shows up as humility, yung wag mayabang, don't brag, don't take up too much space. From childhood, we're taught that being humble is the safest way to be accepted. But here is the cost. Your inner child starts to believe that they don't deserve to be seen, celebrated, or loved simply for who they are. Now I get it. Some of you might be thinking, but isn't being humble a good thing? And you're right. Humility is this beautiful Filipino value. But guess what? That false humility, the kind where we erase ourselves or deny our worth, can wound our inner child. I know it did with me. And the goal isn't to brag. It's to be able to say salamat when someone notices our goodness. That's not arrogance. That's acceptance. When was the last time you received a compliment and you actually let yourself feel it? Comment below because I want to hear it. For many of us also, this reflex, it comes from both personal trauma and cultural conditioning. I'll share something personal because growing up, my mom, who I love so dearly, she's very religious, she has a lot of faith. She would always tell me, be humble. And maybe that's also coming from our faith, right? Wag masyadong mayabang. I didn't know why, but I felt like I had to hide my achievements, my joy, and even my voice. And I started to feel that there was something wrong with me if I wanted to be seen, which is very natural for a child to feel, right? Like you want to be seen, you want to be heard, you want to be listened to. And so, like many of you, I learned to shrink. I learned to hide my voice. I learned to hide who I truly am. And this passion project, the Brown Psych, this is also like one of the ways I am tending to my inner child and reclaiming that voice that I used to hide and also like not being seen from a long time ago. Anyway, from the lens of Sikolohiyang Pilipino, concepts like hiya or shame, and then pakikisama, which means getting along well with others, these are deeply ingrained in us. And they kept our communities harmonious in pre colonial times. But in our families today, they can sometimes silence the child who longs to be recognized. Some of you may say, this is just our culture. Not a problem. And you're right, modesty is part of who we are. But here's the thing, our ancestors also had traditions of celebrating joy openly through dance, ritual, and song. And then they can get really loud, right? Like in their songs, in the dances. And healing isn't about rejecting culture, it's really about our balance. And we can be humble and also let the joy in. Do you remember being told wag kang masyadong mayabang as a child? How was that for you? And did it actually encourage humility? Or did it make you shrink? Or did it almost kind of feel like there is something wrong with how you're feeling, even though like all our feelings are valid, right? We have to honor our feelings. Like we were taught that now in this generation. But when we were growing up, it's like we were always told to shrink and just hide. So take a breath and notice what comes up for you. On the surface, humility seems harmless, even admirable. But when it becomes a habit of discounting everything good about yourself, it fuels depression, it fuels anxiety, low self confidence, and low self worth. Think about it. When you get an A on a test and you say, madali lang kasi yung exam, instead of saying, like, gosh, that was like really, thank you, brain, right? Like, thank you for being so amazing. Or you got promoted and you think, siguro ayaw lang ng iba, kaya ako yung napili, which means maybe others didn't want it. That's why I was the one who was chosen. Or a friend calls you kind and you reply, eh, dapat lang naman, right? Like that's what it's meant to be instead of just saying thank you. So every time you push the good, you reinforce the belief that you're not enough. And that wounded inner child inside you, who already feels unseen, just gets pushed further into the shadows. Some of you might object. If I accept compliments, other will think I'm boastful or mayabang. And the fear is real. We worry about inggit or judgment. But here's also a reframe that maybe can help you. When you receive kindness gracefully, you are not showing off. You are practicing kapwa because you're allowing that connection. Because like when someone like really sees you for who you are, that's almost kind of like a bridge to your inner self, right? And that's how we are able to also connect with others, by really truly seeing them. So you're allowing that connection instead of pushing people away. And another common one is, I survived by being self-critical. And I believe you, many of us did. Self-criticism kept us striving, made us disciplined, made us overachieve, made us even it protected us from failure. But here's the truth. That voice that once helped you survive may now be keeping you small. You don't have to throw away discipline. You can balance it with compassion. And if you want to go a deeper layer, Sikolohiyang Pilipino reminds us that kapwa, that shared identity, is at the heart of Filipino psychology. But if you constantly discount yourself, you also struggle to connect with kapwa because you can't receive their kindness. You keep them at a distance. So, how do you start noticing this pattern? Well, here are the few steps. The first one is awareness. Many of us don't even realize often that we are discounting the positive. And one practice I recommend is also journaling. At the end of each day, write down the moments you discounted something good. Maybe you said, wala lang yun, when your coworker thanked you. What that means is like, that's nothing, right? Or maybe you downplayed your effort after cooking a meal, this amazing meal. And when you notice these patterns, try cognitive diffusion. This is the fancy term of a psychologist use for creating distance between you and your thoughts. So for example, instead of saying, I'm not really smart, natsyempohan lang ako, Or like, I'm not really that smart. Like, it's just that I was like in the right time at the right place. Say, I'm having that thought that I'm not really smart. So basically, like really noticing what your mind is doing, or even like I'm having, my anxiety is telling me that I'm not really smart. That kind of creates that distance. And I want you to notice that shift. By naming it as a thought, you stop treating it as absolute truth. Here's a mini practice. Close your eyes for a few seconds and say in your mind, I am having the thought that I am not good enough. And then add, salamat brain, or thanks anxiety, but I don't have to believe you. I don't have to believe you, anxiety, right now, because I want you to feel the difference, right? That you're creating space between you and your thought, or you and your anxiety. And to support you in this, by the way, I also created a free guide called Navigating Boundaries. This is the Filipino Inner Child's Guide Companion to Healing Guilt. It'll help you recognize when guilt and shame show up and how to respond with compassion instead. You can download it in the link in the description. So, how do we let the good in? So, like I said, awareness is just a start. Healing means practicing new ways of being. Here are 3 tools that you can also try. 3 good things exercise. So araw-araw, every day, write down 3 good things you did. Even if it's as simple as, nagpahinga ako today, I rested today, or I texted a friend back, I texted my friend back, and over time, your brain starts noticing the good automatically. Let's do one together right now. Think of one good thing you've done today. It could be as small as getting out of bed or clicking on this video to learn and to tend to your inner child. And say it out loud. One good thing I did today is to learn on how to tend to my inner child by listening to Dr. Nette at the Brown Psych channel. And then number 2, receive compliments fully. Next time someone compliments you, simply say, salamat po, or thank you. Nothing more, no excuses. Just let it land, and it will feel uncomfortable at first. But that's your inner child learning that they are allowed to receive love, and they are allowed to feel the joy. That joy that, when being connected or when being seen by someone brings. And you might be thinking, but I'm just doing what's expected of me. Why should I take credit? And I hear that. Many of us feel our successes belong to our parents, or if you're a believer, to God. But honoring their sacrifices doesn't mean erasing yourself. What if saying thank you for a compliment is also a way of saying, yes, I carry my family and God with me? Or maybe you fear it's dangerous to celebrate too much. And that's a real belief many of us were taught. But joy isn't a curse, it's medicine. When we celebrate, we're not just inviting disaster, you're actually inviting the healing. All right. And then the third one, celebrate in community. Healing is not meant to be done alone. Just like our ancestors did, that's what we are doing in the Hilom Collective. Our members practice sharing their small wins. It may feel awkward at first, but it rewires the brain. Joy multiplies when shared. And if you're curious about this, the Hilom Collective is our membership community where we heal generational trauma together through inner child work, ancestral wisdom, and kapwa psychology. And inside, you'll find support, rituals, and kapwa who will remind you you don't have to heal alone. And also in the membership, we have weekly events, we have inner child work that's monthly now, we have creative writing workshops, we have Kapwa Connect, we have live didactic sessions where I kind of like do some educational lecture like this, and then at the end we do a Q&A. And then we also have like our 12 steps of inner child healing guide videos, and that is on demand videos whenever you're ready to do that. We have PDF guides and all of other events that are also in there. By the way, to also help you practice to start this, you can also download Pagbabalik Loob, the 5 basic sacred steps to begin your Filipino inner child healing journey. Think of it as a gentle reintroduction to your inner child work. And if you're also not familiar with that, that is a great way to start. The link is in the description. And here's a truth that I want you to hold. Your joy is not arrogance. It is your birthright. And every time you let yourself receive goodness, you are teaching your inner child that they matter and that they are finally safe to shine. And I will leave you with this personal story. For so many years, I believed that I had to hide, that if I took up too much space, I was going to be seen as selfish or mayabang. And even when I achieved something big, I'd shrink it down. It wasn't until my healing journey and later my cancer survival and really my inner child work, my inner child healing, that I realized that joy is medicine and celebrating ourselves is not arrogance. Because if I don't celebrate myself, it's like I'm also neglecting the joys of my own inner child. So creating ourselves is not arrogance, it's really honoring the life and the strength within us. So, in the next video, which is every Filipino American must watch this, we are going to unpack the painful gap between the first generation Filipino parents and second gen kids in America, or if you're in the diaspora, that can be applicable to you too. We'll talk about cultural expectations, silence around emotions, and the deep desire to be understood. Most importantly, we'll see how unhealed trauma can quietly pass from one generation to the next. You don't want to miss it. This is Dr. Nette signing out. I will see you in the next one. And again, just a reminder, our healing is our resistance. I'll see you soon.